Hi guys, and welcome to the webinar. Today we are looking at the energy sector. We're actually talking to some of the big names in the energy sector for the UK. Today, really excited to introduce some companies that we've worked with quite closely with in the last sort of 12 to 24 months. Amanda from Sellafield. Do you want to say hello, Amanda?
Hi everyone, nice to be here.
Amanda, do you just want to go into a little bit of detail on what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. So Amanda Smith, I work for Sellafield Limited as the UAV Equipment Programme Lead, and I head up the UAV team for the Sellafield site and the wider estate.
Fantastic. We've also got with us today Duncan Turner from Severn Trent Water. Duncan, do you just want to give us a bit of an intro?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yes, as George suggested, Duncan Turner. I am the Severn Trent Water Drone Lead. So I look after all our drone program, managing all the drone flights across our estate and looking at the sort of innovation piece and inspection piece, asset inspection piece across the board, and also get involved with managing all our third-party flights as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. We've also got today with us Caroline from Networx3.
Hi guys, yeah, Caroline from Networx3. I'm the commercial director of the telecoms arm of the business, but also a PIF co-pilot for the Networx3 drone side of the company as well. So a multi sort of perspective from me, from my side today, which is great. So I'm really looking forward to this this session.
Fantastic. No, thanks for joining us. And then finally, we've got Greg Barrett from Northumbria Water. Greg.
Cheers, George. Yeah, so I work in our capital investment program within Northumbrian Water, particularly, as you may discern from my accent, in the Essex and Suffolk region of the business, and I look after our drone fleet within that part of the business, at least, anyway.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, well, and if you don't already know, my name's George Burne. I'm UAV Strategist here at COPTRZ. And we have been over the last 3 or 4 months really looking at what we can do, because it's been a bit of a weird year. And we always used to hold demo days and get some of our big companies who we work with and supply equipment to come in and do speeches or talks on what they're currently doing. And bit of a brainwave actually doing a bit of a global demonstration day virtually, and it's turned out to be really well. We had a great day yesterday. But today is all about the energy sector. So let's kick off with Amanda Smith from Sellafield. Amanda, really appreciate you joining us today. Do you just want to talk quickly on sort of what your role is at Sellafield and how you're currently using drones? Because I think when a lot of people look at Sellafield, there's a multitude of different aspects and different roles. What do you currently do?
Yeah, so a little bit of a background about the Sellafield site itself. So Sellafield has approximately 10,000 employees. So we're not a small company by any stretch, but the UAV team within that company is a core team of 5 people. So I head up that team. I've got the 4 remote pilots that report direct to me, but we do also have other remote pilots that are out in the business that we can call on to. It's slightly different for me, like we say there. It's I never thought I would find myself anywhere near drones. If you look back at my career history, I'm an electrician by trade, but yeah, the opportunity came up, and I thought, do you know what, it's great, it's up and coming, we'll jump in there. And some of the kind of things that we do on the site. So, like you said, it's a very varied site. Imagine it as its own town, so to speak. So we've got all sorts of different buildings. We've got tall stack chimneys, we've got ventilation, ductwork, we've got our own rivers that run through and pipe bridges, and it's a right mixed bag of inspections that we do carry out on the site.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so obviously you mentioned there's it's sort of like a small town. Yeah, and obviously the ventilation stacks and stuff. What are you using? What drones are currently being used? Because obviously the internal side is a big aspect of what you do, but on a sort of a larger scale, what do your teams sort of get up to on a day-to-day basis?
So a day-to-day basis, it could be anything. So we could have the external flights. So we'll start on those ones. So we've got the stack inspections that we do carry out, and that negates the need for rope access to go up the stack chimneys. Some of them are touching on the upper level of the permissions that you can fly to. Hence the reason we're going for extended permissions to be able to fly further. We're quite lucky in the fact that we've got our own restricted flight zone. So it does make life a bit easier going for those kind of missions. So we could have a team doing the stack inspections to make sure that the ventilation stacks aren't going to fall down on the site anytime soon. We've got roof inspections, so we've got the civils engineering team, and historically they've neglected from inspecting certain roofs due to the fact that it costs so much to get the scaffolding up, etc. So we do actually go up and inspect the roofs to see if any damage that's up there. We get a lot of nesting birds,
right,
being on the coast. So again, we can see what kind of damage they're doing, or if they could impact any of the work scopes that's going forward.
Fantastic. So just on those, what would be more of like the traditional method? Because drones have obviously not been around for 20, 30 years. What was the major sort of switch from going from, say, scaffolding and rope access to using drones? Because you just listed off a huge catalogue of different applications. What was the main sort of turning point?
Cost avoidance or cost savings, however you want to badge it, and safety. So for us as a site, there's so much going on a day-to-day basis. To put scaffolding around a building, there's so many different restrictions in access and egress, things that you've got to counter for. Plants themselves, downtime on a plant when we've got schedules to still stick to. If we can get in there with a drone and pretty much in and out half a day, it saves a lot of downtime. It saves people going and working at height. So again, it links to our site strategic objectives, which is safer, faster, cheaper. Yeah.
Fantastic. The big three. So you've obviously touched on the external sides. What work are you doing with the internal side? Because obviously I know you're big fans of the Helios, the Flyby Helios.
Yeah, we've got a few of the Helios. We've got the Helios 1s and the Helios 2s. A recent inspection that we've carried out is what we classed as the semi-sealed area. So this was a historic area of plant that's been closed off for decades. Basically, back in the day, what you found was people would do things, weren't quite sure how to rectify what they were doing, and they'd basically shut areas off. So we're slowly starting to break those barriers down. We're being able to get into these areas using the likes of the Helios, map the areas out, understand what's in there, understand what sort of radiation and contamination challenges are in there, and then we can provide that information over to a group of people who can then forward plan to understand how they can get back into that area and either make it safe again or decommission it and get it back to a state where it's just a routine building on the site.
Fantastic. We obviously, I think we had a conversation just before this started, but also about the social economic of is it the local harbour and the progress reports you're doing at the moment? What are you doing to in efforts to that?
Yeah, so the social economic bit is a big part of West Cumbria. If anybody's ever been to West Cumbria, you'll notice that Sellafield's the huge employer in the area, and what we do try to do is try to reach out to the local area as much as we can to support anything that we can help them with, basically. But the Whitehaven Harbour project, they have got a new building that's going up, so they're doing a bit of regeneration works, and they're putting a new activity centre on. So in a couple of years' time, you'll be able to come up and do your paddle boarding and all sorts of sea access activities, and we're doing progress reports for those. So we're doing the shots to show what the harbour looks like to start with before the building goes up, and capturing important bits of the build as it goes through to show the changes to the harbour.
Fantastic. So progress reports, brilliant. And obviously we won't go too much into depth on obviously what every sort of application you're doing, but the collaboration with the Future Flight Challenge on the BVLOS side. Just to give us a bit of an intro to that.
Yep, so that's huge for us. So we're working with a company called Seas.ai. We're one of their test partners, one of the many that's out there. But for us in the nuclear industry, the future is BVLOS for us, being able to command and control those craft on a site where you're away from the site. So we are part of their test team. They actually visited us last week, and we were able to fly one of their craft based down in Sussex from our West Cumbria location. So that was 350 miles away. And I appreciate there's other people out there doing a similar kind of sort of challenge with the BVLOS applications. But yeah, like I say, we're trying to work it so that we can understand where we want to be in the future as well, what we can do on the nuclear site.
Fantastic. Yeah, the whole beyond visual line of sight aspect of drones, I think we're really going to see sort of a huge impact coming up into the next 12 months. So fantastic stuff. I think obviously you mentioned obviously the progress part. We'll finish with like a big question. Sort of the data you collect. what's the processes for that? What are you looking for in your inspections? What sort of actual data are you collecting?
It varies. So again, it depends on what the customer wants. So we are working as a small business within the bigger organisation.
Right.
Some people are just happy with the images. Some people want infrared images. Some people want the full LiDAR 3D point clouds. And what we need to do going forward as a business is understand what the customer wants. If we can't provide it, we either need to work out how we can provide it, or how we can work out with the supply chain and other people like yourselves and other people that are on the calls to say, right, well, we can't quite do this in-house, but can we work with you collaboratively externally and work together that way? Fantastic.
And looks to the future. What's the next step for Sellafield and your team?
The BV loss is the big thing for us. It's trying to get that permission and to be able to get that into place. But also we're part of the NDA, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, and what we would like to do is make things simple across the whole of the NDA estate. So currently each small area has its own permissions and its own operations manuals, etc. We want to try and make things a bit easier and see if we can work more collaboratively across the whole NDA estate. We're funded by the taxpayers, so what we can do to save taxpayers money is a must, and that's definitely a big step forward for us to see what we can do that way.
Fantastic, brilliant. I mean, that's essentially the big thing for me coming away from that conversation is obviously comparing it to what your sort of traditional methods would be. It's the speed, cost effective, and then obviously the safety side. That resonated throughout yesterday's talks with all of our webinars, and I think that's essentially what we're going to hear today. Which is brilliant. No, I really appreciate your time, Andrew, on that. And obviously, we'll come back to you later on in the webinar for some questions. But no, any last words before we do move on?
It's exciting. The future for the drone industry, it's unbelievable. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't have believed where I would have been coming from my background as just an electrician. But it just goes to show that you don't necessarily need to have the permissions to fly yourself to be able to be involved in the industry. It's open to other people that are out there as well.
Fantastic. No, brilliant. Great response. So I think after that, we'll move on to Duncan from Severn Trent Water. Duncan, are you with us? Can you hear us?
I can indeed, George, loud and clear.
Fantastic. So I know we've actually spoken about this quite a lot over the last couple of months, but obviously we're going to talk about a couple of different applications you're doing, different use cases and different drones currently in the fleet. But we'll kick off with the carbon emissions headline project of 2021. Do you just want to introduce us to exactly what that means, what that is, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, this is big news for us in 21-22. This is part of Severn Trent's Water, sort of a larger piece where Severn Trent have got a triple carbon pledge, and they're looking at the sort of sustainability and investment back into the local community. And they're investing a huge amount of money back into the community to look at sort of various different sustainability projects. And a big part of this is the carbon project. So we are, as in the Severn Trent drone team, are launching a drone carbon impact program. And we're going to we're heavily involved now with looking at emissions across the business and how we can sort of monitor these and look into sort of the new data that we can retrieve. So as part of this 2030 green target, the business is planning to become sustainable and have sort of across the sites hit the green sort of a green target where they won't or they'll match the emissions with the green target.
Using what they're trying to sort of emulate.
Yeah, so as part of this, what we're looking to do, we have a new sensor which we've been piloting with COPTRZ, and this is the DJI U10 sensor. So this is an incredible piece of equipment that allows us to look at methane emissions across from the business in different targeted areas across our sites. And the sensor, quite clever really, can remotely, using the laser, detect the methane being released from across our plant. And this then allows us to sort of work through and work out exactly the sort of emissions coming from the sites.
So is this so obviously essentially you use the YouTube. Is this something you plan to do over every site then, and to understand exactly sort of the emissions that are coming from that?
Yeah, so what we're doing initially, we've got a sort of pilot site that we're going to target first, and we're working with our partners to look at the sort of data we can get from the site, and then work out sort of exactly what this means, and how then we can come up with sort of new formulas to start rolling this out across the rest of our sites, and come up with new emission models. So we can break down our different processes into sort of similar categories, and then work out estimated emissions across all of our sites.
Fantastic. So in terms of going green, is to understand if there's leakages, is that right? Or to say if there's like a quota or a level that they have to stay below, and then find the source. Is that sort of along the right lines?
Yeah, so there's two big parts to this. So there's the emissions part, where we're going out and, I say, looking at our green targets and what we can do with that. The second part of it is the sort of health and safety and risk factors. Obviously, if we've got leaking methane across any of our sites, then that could potentially cause a risk. Now, if we can identify and pinpoint these areas remotely, so we can then send in or isolate these and then send in the teams to do the sort of ground inspection, and stop the leaks of methane across the site.
Fantastic. Sounds like a really cool project moving into to the end of the year. Now, another real cool point that we've been speaking over the last couple of months is obviously fault finding. This is something that drone companies have been doing, all across the country. I mean, how are you using that? How are you using that for the local community, for the wider company of Severn Trent, and what are you using for that? So
yeah, I suppose a big part of this is, again, in our sort of energy inspections. Yeah. So across our sites, we now generate a substantial amount of energy, and some of the sites are even generate enough energy to completely offset the usage. Brilliant. So Severn Trent currently, or in the past 5 years, I've currently used 50% renewable energy to run the plants, and pushing forwards, we're looking to be 100% renewable. And part of that is our sort of solar fields. So we'll generate a lot of power with solar. Another area we'll generate power with is the gas produced as part of the process. And then we've got wind turbines and sort of water turbines as well. But so looking at the thermal or cameras that we can utilize on the drones, we can go in and do inspections to understand the efficiency of our solar farms. So we can quite quickly fly across the solar farm, identify the panels which degrade over time and have got faults. And then from that, we've got working on a formula to understand when we can swap out the particular panels, so we can run those solar farms at a high efficiency to keep, the sort of peak performance and generation of power across from those sites. So yeah.
So just to like summarize that, it's saving yourselves, I guess time, money, but saving the end user, which is obviously the general public, money. Is that where you're getting at?
It is, yeah. So by utilising the drones across these sites, I mean, the solar fields are sort of huge, great big areas, and to be able to inspect that, the time of inspection is brought down greatly by being able to use the drone. And once you've then programmed in the route into the application once, then it's a repeatable survey, so you can quite quickly go out and get continuous data from that site to understand the sort of the lifespan. And then we can build up our knowledge and how the sort of assets start to degrade over time, and build that into the program of works, where we're sort of anticipating when we then need to go out and look at the performance of the solar farm.
Fantastic. And so it's not just assets either as well though, that you guys doing, is it? It's, you're using multispectral cameras as well, and to look for and to help. Well, a bit like how Sellafield are using theirs to help the local community, the local economic. How are you using those multispectral cameras? It's the Microsense Ultim you guys are using, is that right?
Yeah, again, this is a new piece of equipment that we're using, and we've got some proof of concepts going ahead this year. So this is again another really exciting project that we're involved with, sort of touching on renewables and working with our catchment teams. So we're working with various different farmers, looking at the potential impact of the way they plant the crops, and also the amount of fertilizers that they need to use, and the knock-on impact to the sort of environment and then the water production as well. So by being able to fly the NDVI camera over the farmers' fields, we can then understand what's happening in much more detail across these sites. And as I say, how that affects the catchment areas, the amount of fertilizer they're using, and the sort of the nitrates which can then wash into the watercourse and cause knock-on effects by that. So if we can reduce those nitrates down, then we can, as I say, reduce the sort of impact on the wildlife, and also the water that we then go and draw from the rivers or watercourse further downstream. So yeah, it's all part of sort of the bigger environmental picture, and the piece that we can sort of give back to our customers and farmers.
Fantastic. So just to recap on everything there, obviously using the methane sensors with drones to lower emissions and to keep to a quota, using the thermal cameras to identify faults and keep operations running smoothly on solar farms, and then also NDVI to reduce runoff, to understand where farmers need to either increase or decrease the amount of fertilizer, pesticides. For you, Duncan, for the future, going on for the next 5 years, where do you see drones? One last question: what have you got for us?
So our program now is looking at, because we're only a small centralized team, and we're looking really how we can. So almost it's like a centralized innovation team that we're looking at how these new innovation of drones and what it sort of means to the sort of current processes, and how then we can start rolling this out across the business. So our biggest sort of upcoming program, apart from the carbon impact program, is the rollout to the business. So how we're going to sort of make all of this BAU for a lot more of the business, because it's all about capturing the data and understanding these data sets, which our sort of data lab can then analyze. So the more data that we can collect out from across the sites at the same time, the more impact I think we can have on things like triple carbon pledge, carbon emissions, giving back to the community, and also increasing our sort of safety across the sites. So with the inspections, the more sort of like roof inspections or asset inspections we can do remotely, the more potential that we can look to save as well by then doing pinpoint scaffolding or understanding the true condition of these assets out on site. So yeah, it's really data is key here, and it's understanding and sort of utilising the best way of collecting that data from across our sites in the most efficient way.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much. Obviously, any questions you've got for Duncan on any of these topics, same for the end, we'll fire them over. But now let's move on to Caroline from Networx3. Caroline, you still with us?
Hi, George. Yes, I'm indeed.
Fantastic. So obviously, you guys, we've known you for a couple of years now. You guys come from a really successful background in being fiber optic side, and then you made the move into drones. Just wanted to sort of tell us where that sort of brainwave came from, because from conversations I've had with yourselves and your colleagues, it's been quite an easy transition, but quite a successful one as well.
Yeah, massively. So like you said, we're predominantly a telecommunications company, and we've been in existence since 2003. So we've been around for a long, long time now. And we like to think, and I believe we are exceptionally good at what we do. And as a company, we're always looking at innovative options to develop the business and how we can support our clients, because we have a lot of long-standing clients and we're always looking for new great long-term clients as well. So ironically, again, you spoke to Ian Ashworth, our managing director, yesterday on your webinar, and he sort of clarified that our version of drone interest actually came from a hobbyist drone that was purchased as a gift for Ian, our MD. And he looked at this drone and said, you know, this is fantastic. And this was only a small drone, limited capabilities, but he sort of looked at it and thought, right, this could be the future for Networx3. And as a technology focused company, we sort of looked at it and thought, how can we implement this in what we're already doing and complement our clients and give them extra services and add value to what we're already completing from a telecoms perspective. So Networx3 drones was created pretty much there and then. And as a business, you know, we've funded internally off our own backs, to put it bluntly, as an organization to build our drone fleet and our drone arm of the company. And it's pretty much literally, excuse the pun, taken off from there. And it's been an absolutely exciting and constantly developing venture in something that is an industry that is always innovating and moving forward. And we're trying to sort of take the steps to be one step ahead in that.
Absolutely, and this is why it's exciting. You know, obviously having asset owners, people who are operating within a company is great, because you have, you know, these innovative projects and stuff. When it comes to the end users, which is you guys, you usually have, you know, two ways about it. People will come through from a hobbyist direction, or they'll come from another side of the company. You guys have kind of done both. Got the really successful side of the company with the fiber optic side. But then, as you say, Ian did have that brainwave as a gift, and it's just grown from there. So, I mean, fantastic sort of direction on it. We were going to speak about the inspection of turbines and what you guys are doing sort of in the energy sector in that respect. So, how is everything going? What are you currently using at the moment? What have you been doing? What's good at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's quite a diverse sort of job reel for us, really, across the board. But obviously, I know we're sort of focusing on energy today, and I will touch on various aspects that we can sort of support with that. So from the perspective of our drones, we've got a really wide range of a fleet, really. And as you know, George, we've worked with COPTRZ for years now, and you guys have supplied some exceptional machines for us. So that's been fantastic. So my personal favorite, Amanda's already mentioned it, is the Helios 2. I absolutely love that drone. It's been one of the best investments we as a company have ever made, really, because, yeah, there it is. It's so gorgeous. You know, it's been an amazing investment for us, because not only has it allowed us to access all areas and go into areas of the unknown, which is what I love about it, it's got this uniqueness to it that allows us to look at different aspects for our clients. So, for example, I'm a PIFCO pilot, so I've flown in an oil refinery in tankers to look at conditions and if there's erosion. We've flown in sewers. So again, we're looking at conditional surveys for our clients. So, you know, Amanda's already mentioned this, not to repeat it too much, but I think it is the biggest part of this. It's a health and safety perspective, protecting people's employees, protecting, you know, us and our employees. You know, rather than sending a person down into a hazardous environment, we're able to send an absolutely amazing bit of kit into these environments and report back with great data, quality data, and come back with conditional surveys for our customers. And on top of that, you know, we've got the Matrice 210, absolutely amazing drone. And we've used this, funnily enough, on the turbine side of things. So we've worked with various energy companies for a long, long time, again, in telecom. So we've done power monitoring systems using fiber networks. And again, this is a complementary addition to that. So we've flown and looked at the condition of the turbines. We've had lightning strikes on turbines, which, as you can imagine, are in a really dangerous condition for anybody to try and investigate how to deal with the repercussions of that. And we've basically gone with a drone. We've flown up to the turbine. We've flown up to the hub of the turbine. We've looked at the condition of that turbine in itself and said, right, you know, we've captured it, we've videoed it, we've photographed it, we've got close-up bird's eye views of the damage so people can plan safely and logistically how to deal with these problems. And that's something that people don't always think about. It's not just the running of the actual devices themselves. It's what happens when nature takes its course and affects something that no one can control. And that's something that we're really passionate about supporting our clients with. and then right through to from, you know, again, environmental issues affect everything to do with energy and renewable energy, because we're all we have a duty for innovation. This is what we're here for as organizations. We have to innovate, and people actually really are valuing the planet more and more. And, you know, every month something comes out where people are considering the impact on the environment more and more. And this is where energy and that absolutely synchronize with itself. And, you know, we've looked at bird nests and bats roosting, all these things environmentally that impact, you know, wind farms being built, solar farms being built. You know, are the nesting birds in fields? Are the birds in trees that sadly are going to have to be cut down, but for good reasons? We look at all this for these companies, you know, and it's an absolute privilege, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's a really wide field, to be honest, George. I could go on forever, as you can probably tell, you know, and it's one of those things where I think we're constantly evolving, and we're here to support our clients. And we're a very reactive company, always have been. We've been an emergency response company for various high security industries as well. So there's so many strings to our bow as a business. We're just constantly evolving, and, you know, it's fascinating to speak to everybody on these webinars who are dealing with this. It's great. It really is.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I think that's one of the biggest, the most exciting, the most sort of satisfying sides of working in the drone industry is, you know, you have a drone and it has its purpose, but every day it seems like there's something new that it's being used for, you know, because at the end of the day, it's a vehicle to capture data, and, you know, there's different ways of using it. Even the Helios 2, we get new sort of applications daily for that, and it really is. You've got to stay on top of the game, or, you know, innovative, and that in such a small, well, not small, but sort of young environment, which is the drone industry. Yeah, you've got to keep innovating. So
yeah, of course. And what I've noticed as well, George, is the level of interest and people involved in this industry far exceeds what I think any of us originally sort of were aware of, because it is evolving so quickly. I mean, and again, like you say, evolution happens in so many different ways. And we as a business, we've even just invested in a Sky Mantis, which is a game changer in the energy industry, because you're flying on wind farms which are notoriously unexpectedly high up. The weather's a bit unpredictable, the rain's unpredictable, the wind is often a lot worse the higher you go. It's just, you know, standard expectation. And, you know, the Mantis has such diverse abilities in that sector as well. So again, we're always looking at how we can support the needs of our customers and make a turnkey solution as a business. So yeah, it's great to watch it all evolve and how everyone's using these systems in place. It's fantastic. No,
fantastic. One last thing to say, the future, obviously we've spoken about innovation quite heavily there. I mean, for you, Karen, where do you see the next big sort of application for drones over the next 5 years?
To be honest, George, I'd like to say it's going to be absolutely across the board, and I love the unpredictability of it. I'm not going to sit here and say we've got a sole focus, because as a business, we're so diverse and we're so advanced in how we look at things. We're always looking at various angles that we can approach, not necessarily focusing on one sort of result. So I think we're going to continue supporting our long customer base with using drones to complement the services we already provide. I think we're looking to help organizations, again, you know, across the board, looking at various ways of adding value and helping with health and safety. And I think just being totally open to the fact that I think drones can be used in pretty much every eventuality if it's done in the right way. And I think as a business, we're just going to be quality driven and continue to drive that, as well as our predominant day jobs, and you know, make it a big part of what we do. And again, just keep networking in this environment and supporting each other, really, because people can be scared of change, and I think we have to encourage change. And I think in our industry, in telecoms even as well, there's a lot of fear of change, and there's a lot of fear of the unknown. And we're constantly striving to encourage people to step outside the box and see the benefits of drones and of various different solutions in our industries. And you know, I think my job and our job as a company is to continue doing that and doing it with passion. So watch this space, I think, guys.
Fantastic. I think the two big things to take away from that is obviously collaboration with companies. I think everyone will agree who's been on here that, you know, collaboration is just an innovative pusher. But it is all about, as you say, is that innovation. You know, it is finding something new and working with it. But no, Cal, I really appreciate you obviously taking time to do this. any questions for Caroline, stick them in the chat or the questions section, and we'll get to them at the end. So yeah, thank you very much. And on to our last but not least, Greg from Northumbria Water. Greg, you still with us?
Yes, I can hear you, George.
Fantastic, mate. How are we? All right?
Good.
Good stuff. Greg, do you just want to give us a quick recap on what your sort of role is and what your sort of role is with drones as well?
Yeah, so I work in sort of the asset management team, if you like. We look after capital investment and obviously intelligent asset management. So that's where I sit currently at the moment. And then sort of the drone thing started kicking off, and it was an opportunity to try and get involved in something. So we looked at what we could use drones for and sort of put a business case together to the business and sort of said, actually, we can, as often these things often derive from it's a cash and a health and safety point of view, generally speaking. So originally we took that off to look at sort of doing water tower surveys, because as many people are aware, these are high risk activities. You don't want to put people in these positions, and that's sort of where it started. But then I think, as everybody on the call has alluded to, the springboard effect that you get with this type of technology is unbelievable, and you end up sort of spurring off into other directions and locations you never thought that you would. So, for example, we've gone into sort of doing culvert surveys underneath reservoirs and dams, actually inside reservoirs, inside water towers. I think Duncan mentioned it as well about discharges. So we've looked at issues we've had that where farmers have discharged, or illegal pollution events, and we've managed to track it back to the source of where the problem is, and that is a particular problem we do have in certain parts of the industry. But the other fact as well is sometimes it's just a fantastic PR tool, and obviously Amanda will know just as well as I and Duncan that a lot of our larger sites are quite restricted access, and when we've got work going on, especially large infrastructure projects, sometimes it's just quite nice for Joe Public to see what we're getting up to behind closed doors, and it sort of makes them happy and they know what's going on a little bit, and it sort of keeps the wolves from our doors a little bit. But yeah.
No, fantastic. So you did touch on a couple of applications there. One of the things I think because obviously know you guys are using the Elios, but we'll get to that. The digital twin aspect of what you guys are obviously implementing at the moment and looking to put over to the next sort of next however long. Do you just want to give us a bit of an introduction to that? Talk us through.
Yeah. So obviously, smart asset management is obviously, especially for our industry, quite a thing we're interested in, because obviously if we can sort of streamline what we're spending on our maintenance point of view, is always a good thing. So the idea being is we're looking to go with effectively a digital twin of our business. So effectively we will have telemetry being fed into this system, so we can live interact with it, as we currently do now anyway with these systems. But what's nice about it is we want to have it in sort of a virtual 3D environment. So effectively, by having the drones survey our premises, and we can actually build these models and then collate this real-time data directly on top of it, we actually get a real feel for effectively what is a digital version of our real-life assets. But it has quite interesting aspects to it, in the fact that obviously things break. It's happened. It's life. But what's actually quite nice about it is if we can actually get an understanding of where the asset is before we even arrive on site, it means we can plan more effectively, save on wasted trips out to site, and we can share this information with our contractors and actually get the right solution before we even turn up, which inherently 9 times out of 10, you always have a pre-site meeting to go, okay, yeah, this is what it looks like, rather than going, okay, what is the issue? And then let's deal with it. And on the back of that, it's the machine learning part of it. So we worked with Microsoft a couple of years ago, and again, we overflew one of our sewage treatment works in the northeast, and then worked with Microsoft to actually do sort of a bit of AI machine learning, so we can understand and identify these assets to make our lives a little bit easier at the back end, effectively. And I think the big problem that we have, and again, Duncan will probably be aware of this, is that yes, we do have a large amount of assets and a large amount of land base, but it is spread out so sporadically across the country, it's unbelievable. And it's just pockets of, a treatment works here, a sewage pumping station there, a water tower over here, and it's very, very Spartan. So how to have that in a digital environment is sort of the aim and the strive, really.
Fantastic. So, I mean, in terms of the actual application of doing that, what sort of equipment, software, process, what are you doing to capture that?
So we've been predominantly using the Inspire 2
Yeah.
that we've got at the moment. So that's currently our current workhorse that's doing the hard work for us at the moment. So we operate a couple of drones in the fleet anyway, but yeah, that's doing the heavy lifting. Mainly working with sort of Pix 4D and doing it through them. And a proprietary system that Microsoft had developed to aid in this. So unfortunately, I don't know much more than that at the moment. So it's very hush hush with them on that one. They don't want to tell us much of what they're doing either. So
fantastic. So just inspired to Pixel D, and you're able to collate all of that information, as you say, little pockets all across the country, basically.
Yeah.
So let's get on to, because this is a really cool application, which I think was due to the use, the implementations of COVID. Was it the Helios 2?
Yes. Yeah. No.
So just wanted to give some brief explanation, because a lot of the time we'll find that COVID's restricting things, and I guess in a way it's maybe the silver lining to it a little bit.
Yeah, no. So obviously, under the Water Industry Act, we obviously are required to monitor and maintain our large raw water reservoirs, which is quite a big undertaking as it is anyway. I mean, if you think back to the Whaley Bridge disaster that happened, 2 or 3 years ago, that just goes to show the prevalence of how much we need to monitor these assets to make sure they're in a good state of health. Now, and we do this twice annually. We will go and inspect these large structures. Now, a lot of them have culverts, or they'll have shafts that go down into them for us to assess the condition. Now, the problem with these these shafts are very narrow, they're quite tight, and obviously when COVID started last year, we sort of really scratched our head as well, how can we perform this type of inspection socially distanced? It's just not physically possible. You need a man rescue team, you need access, and it's a big undertaking. So that's when obviously I contacted yourself, George, and looked at what was available, and obviously we honed in on the Helios 2. We trialed it at a couple of our sites, and basically fell in love with it, as I think anybody who picks it up and uses it inherently says, to be honest with you. And since then we've used that, and then we've gone a bit further with that, so it's being used for treated water reservoir inspections now as well, where time is a limiting factor, where we can't get in or can't get out quite quickly. But ultimately it's provided us with a valuable tool that's meant we can reduce down the risk to people. There's a financial incentive to it, and ultimately we can get up close and personal, particularly with areas that we wouldn't be able to before. I think there's actually a case study on your website actually that we looked at one of our reservoirs in Essex, and there is these are large shafts that, because you're working off of a ladder, you physically can't get to another side of the shaft, which with the Helios you can, and you can get up close and personal and really get some great data back off of it.
So traditionally, those inspections, I mean, how would they traditionally be done before you brought this in? Would it be manned?
Yes, it would be a fully manned operation, and it would take time, obviously, to egress in and out. These are big things. These are big things you need to traverse inside of. Unfortunately, I'm limited as to what I can show and share with you guys when we did the case study on your website. But these are vast spaces that you need to be. If you want to do it properly, you need to really get up close and personal, or you then have to install large amounts of scaffolding and large amounts of extra work, which again is time and money, and these are assets that really need to be working hard. So having them out offline for any period of time is never a good thing.
Yeah, of course. Fantastic. Brilliant. I mean, to be honest, you mentioned a little bit on the PR side as well, obviously site progression and monitoring. What's sort of the next steps for you guys then? I've asked everybody on the conference today, what do you see Northumbria Water doing with drones? What do you see yourselves doing? And in general, sort of the wider drone industry? What do you see the next big thing being?
I think if I said anything, it would be completely false and untrue, because it moves so quickly and so fast. What I predict today, I guarantee will not happen tomorrow. It probably has already happened yesterday. It's that type of industry. It would appear. But for us is to continue on with where we are, and what we want to move into next really is sort of our agricultural team, much similar to what Duncan was talking about. Obviously, we're looking at nitrates and looking at our farmers and what potentially could cause us problems further down the line. If we do a lot of upfront work with farmers and local communities. If we can pre-stem issues before they even arrive on our treatment works, it just means we've got a more reliable system and a more reliable treatment works that we can run, and we'll get a better end product out of it, and we won't have as many shutdowns. So that's quite an interesting one. And wildlife, there's quite a few of our reservoirs that are actually designated as SSSI sites. So there's quite a keen interest to monitor the wildlife to make sure they're actually thriving in the environments that we've created for them. So, and with the drone, that's a nice way we can sort of we can monitor that to make sure that they are thriving as they should be. And if they're not, we know what to do, and we can try and make a difference.
Fantastic. No, Greg, amazing stuff. Really cool applications you guys are doing. Use of obviously digital twin, Helios 2. Big thing for me, just hearing what you were talking about then, is that time-saving ability, creating sort of a document, or obviously the digital twin of a site that you can then go back to, and it saves you a lot of time in the process and the planning side of it, and then obviously the Helios 2 as well for that health and safety bit. But I really appreciate everybody who's joined me today. We're going to go on to a bit of a Q&A. I'm looking at my team now. I think we've got some questions coming out. I think I can have a look if you bear with me 1 second. Fantastic. So let's get on to some of the brilliant. So we'll go up on the upvoted thing. So a really good one for, and I think this is for Amanda actually. Any advice on surveying or surveying around nesting birds? We often face aggressive seagulls during roof surveys on dockyard sites. So imagine where you guys are. This is an application you've had to deal with.
I'm laughing because nesting birds or wildlife birds in general, they are horrendous.
Yeah.
They are the most evil things on the planet, seagulls. So what we've found is a decoy. So what we tend to do is we sacrifice one of our smaller craft. So we send up something like the Mavic Zoom with one of our sort of little apprentices, so to speak, and get them to sort of steer the birds towards that one while we go and carry out the inspection with one of our most expensive craft. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, it's a bit crazy, but yeah, it's just the decoy.
That's a great answer. I looked at that here. We could have made that up any better. That's brilliant. Any more advice from anybody else who's had to deal with either birds being in the vicinity, or even, and I know Duncan's probably going to answer this, but other drone users? Have anybody had any of these situations in the past?
Yeah, we also have quite a few problems with birds across our sites, and again, similar sort of tactic. In fact, we'll use the larger craft to sort of persuade the birds to go elsewhere and move them away. We found that using sort of certainly the smaller drones, we find the pigeons are the worst. They take a real interest in it and then try and swoop in and go for the smaller drone. But with regarding other sort of drone users on our sites, especially our reservoir sites, I mean, these are absolutely stunning places, perfect place to fly a drone. But we try and sort of educate our visitors on why we can't have other drones flying in these areas. And it's really going up and locating the drone flyers and then going to talk to them and trying to help them understand the risks of what they're doing, because often they've come out to the countryside first time with their new drone and they're flying it round. But we take that education piece to them and explain and try and educate them and give them some guidance on what they should be doing.
Fantastic. Great answer again. We'll go on to the next one. this is sort of one for Greg and sort of well, both for Amanda and Doug as well. For people outside of sort of a particular business who are looking to work more in sort of the innovation side or work on the project side of what you're doing, because you've obviously all of you have mentioned some fantastic projects this year that you're working on. Is there opportunities for outside companies to help you with these? Opportunities to move into positions within your organization? What's sort of the game at the moment for you guys? Also, we'll start with Greg. Is there any applications for you, mate?
I'm going to have to be ridiculously unprofessional because the delivery driver just turned up my front door. So
I'll tell you what, we'll quickly spin on to Amanda.
I will come right back.
The joys of working from home, I guess.
Definitely. So for us, we don't pretend to know everything there is to know about UAVs and drones in the future within Sellafield, and we often do look outside the fence to find out what is going on in the outside world, where people can support us. I touched earlier on the collaboration with the Seas.ai team. Again, anything else that's out there, if anybody feels that they could support us, drop me a line, get in touch with us, and we'll see what we can do together. We're always looking to build our network, and part of that is obviously if we start working together and get that network built, and then you'll find the people that work really well together and look at the next steps to get into the company.
Fantastic. Yeah, building those alliances and the collaboration. That's exactly what Caroline was obviously mentioning as well. If you need to always be innovative, always be collaborative. And I think Caroline will definitely vouch for this. It's working with different companies who have got different equipment, different skills, because at the end of the day, it's about doing the best job that we can and sort of putting the drone industry in the best position that we possibly can. So, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great answer. Anything to add to that, Caroline, just about the collaboration side?
No, you've pretty much summarised it beautifully there, George. But yeah, it is a case of, again, it's just having the awareness for everyone who's listening to this webinar. It's not as simple as just buying a drone and throwing it in the sky and flying it. There's so many things to consider in this industry that, it's not taking us by surprise, because we're quite used to certain accreditations and certain standards as an organisation. But even just getting insured to fly drones has been a very, very, I know Amanda's sort of reacted there. I think it's a very, very interesting field, because a lot of insurance companies, again, it's this fear of the unknown that I mentioned before. People don't like touching assets that are worth a lot of money that they don't know a lot about. And we've had to implement a lot of structure and a lot of stability within our organization to support people like Amanda, Duncan, Greg in these industries that need that, and liability is it's a boring and grey area for a lot of people, but it's something that is so essentially important. So again, yeah, working together, collaborating, but also ticking all those boxes that we all need to ensure we tick in this industry to make it a quality driven industry, not a child's play industry, basically. So yeah.
Fantastic, really appreciate it. Greg, we've got you back from your post shop. So just quickly, Greg, there's a question directed at you. Do you see 3D models either with photogrammetry or with sort of SLAM data mapping, because it's got the new data software package coming out recently? Do you see that being a contributor to the wider community for digital twin?
100%. I have literally in fact Monday we are starting a new job at one of our reservoirs, treated water reservoir in Essex, and the contractor, as we've had to reroute pipe work around the entire perimeter, took the drone in, created a new model. They've managed to import that into CAD, and they've managed to create something that is far better for the team. So actually, yeah, even this week, I've been on a project where we've been exercising that idea.
Fantastic, great answer. And one for Amanda. I don't know too much about this myself, but when checking radiation levels in these closed areas you mentioned, obviously close, I think you said 20, 30 years, some of these sites at Sellafield, when you're sticking drones in there, either the Helios 1 or 2, are you attaching different recording devices, Geiger meters? What are you doing to check this, or to understand what is in these areas?
So again, each area is completely unique. So the one that I talked about there, we put the Helios 1 in and we used it more for the contamination side. So we basically stuck little sticky pads and rolled the Helios across the surfaces within the area. Other ones, we work closely with universities. So we've just done a trial with University of Bristol for beach radiation monitoring. And again, that's they provide us the equipment. We attach it to our craft, depending on which one it was. We've got a fleet of different ones, and then we go out and help them do the trial, so they can get the understanding if their systems work. Again, like I say, it depends on the exact application. One of the other ones that we've done is we have attached a radiation detection instrument to a Mavic Zoom, and that is to fly up close to a wall, hold against a wall for about 2 meters distance for about 5 seconds to get a reading, and then retract again. So again, like I say, it depends on the application itself, and we're happy to do those trials and work with whoever out there, like I said earlier as well, universities, actual companies, whatever it may be.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to hear just another application, another scenario where you've collaborated, I guess, and they've done something sort of innovative and new, which is brilliant. This is probably one for Greg and Duncan. The amount of data that you obviously traditionally would have collected, and now you're collecting all of this data for doing. Do you ever find it overwhelming? How are you storing all of this information? What seems to be the standard protocol for collecting all of this information? Because the amount of actual photos and videos that you are collecting compared to traditional methods must be incredible.
Yeah, the volumes of data, even from when we started, it's just gone up and up and up, as we're finding sort of new applications and areas where we sort of want to find out about these assets. So, but the value of this data as well is just incredible. So we don't want to throw it away. So yeah, it's a huge challenge to be able to store it, and we've had to work with our tech teams and other partners to be able to understand the best way of storing this data, whether it is sort of locally on the network or whether we push it into the cloud. And we've now got different processes to break the data down once it's processed to where it then best sits. But it is still a big challenge, and especially some of our remote sites, to be able to pull the data down is difficult for them to be able to see it. So sometimes it does, not in COVID times, involve a site visit and go and see the guys and take the data to them to see our models or various things. But yeah, difficult. Greg, how would you get on with it?
Yeah, it is a hard one, and I think we certainly struggle in the fact that obviously all of our data has to remain on, if it does go into the cloud, has to be on UK servers, and there's a big security aspect that we do have to contend with for very good reason. So that has been a big stumbling block, but it has presented a unique set of challenges. But again, I think, Duncan, you probably hit the nail on the head there a little bit, in the fact that once this is processed and put into something that is in a usable format, it's only a simple case of finding what part of SharePoint, for example, it needs to sit on for it to be accessed to someone, or if it's got to go onto a local drive somewhere. We can, generally speaking, space it out. So, but yeah, from the raw collection data point of view, then yeah, that has proven challenging at times. But I think, and kudos to all of our contractors that work with us, that have been doing this work with us. They have been helping us as much as we've been helping them in either processing some of our data for us, or actually giving us stuff at the end, which is wouldn't necessarily smaller, because we're still talking several hundred gigabytes worth of data, but something that's actually a little bit more usable for us, and it makes it a little bit more palatable for it to sit somewhere on the network.
Fantastic. We won't go too much into the security side of data, because we could literally be here for hours talking with all of you guys. So I think that's actually bang on time. If anybody's got any other questions that we didn't get to answer, we will try and get an answer to you if they're directed at individual people. Contact details will be sent. I think we're doing like a bit of an e-shot out to people, just with the emails potentially, just with some information on what's going on in the world at the moment. But guys, I really appreciate you joining us today. It's been really knowledgeable and really enjoyable, and it's definitely going to be the best one we do all day. So you can go away with that. So up next, what we've got, and I'm getting getting told to speed up here. So up next, what we've got is we've got the wing turret and the seagrass project. After that, we're doing the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. We're going to be doing a live demonstration, so fingers crossed with that. That's with Mark at GeoAccess, followed by some great stuff with Asif from Parrot, and then survey data with Pixel, which obviously ties in with what these guys are doing at the moment with Digital Twin. If anybody is interested in jumping in a sort of a live chat room to go on video and speak to myself or any of my colleagues, we're doing that now. There will be a link sent to one of the chat boxes that you can see in front of you. And yeah, guys, really appreciate you joining us. It's been amazing. And good luck for the rest of the year and all your projects you've been. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.